Do you want to talk about how collaboration has changed?
Yeah, like how does it change? I mean, how does it go from, you know, when you're doing Google to doing Box to serving maybe different users a different sort of use case? Like,
yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, the Google stuff, you know, we built Rightly originally just for ourselves, really. So we didn't really understand that it was going to become what it has become originally. It was one of these things where you built it, you launch it, and everybody goes, "Oh, that's brilliant," and then you're like, "Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. We'll just keep going with that." It was a little bit more consumer-oriented, and we were a little bit more kind of dogmatic about where that was going. So very focused on, you know, just being completely in the browser, completely in the cloud. The desktop is dead. We're just going to like go with that. You know, the hell with Microsoft. Like we're just going to have this vision, which worked for a while, but then you know, kind of there's nuance to that. As it turns out, there's inertia. People actually don't want to be completely in the cloud. There's some, you know, there are use cases that work really well for the lighter documents, and we can talk about that and the change of documents. But one of the interesting things that I learned at Box is, you know, the desktop is actually still alive. People do still actually want to work. They do want to work on mobile, and that's a very interesting twist that we didn't see or have to deal with when we were doing the Google Docs stuff in the early days. But there's still a lot of usage, you know, a lot of use cases where you want richer documents and you want to move back and forth between the cloud instead of just living in the cloud. So I guess I have a more nuanced appreciation of it at this point.
That's crazy that someone would want to use the desktop.
It bugs me. Like it's actually kind of gets under my skin sometimes, but you know, because I really do think we're ultimately. And there's a lot of things about the browser and about the Google Apps model that I really like, and I think we're going to move there over time. But you know, you have to actually bring your customers along. You have to actually help people move there. There's plenty of companies that, for whatever reason, are still tied to the desktop, using the desktop, comfortable with it for whatever reason. So we're just trying to build solutions that connect both worlds. It's kind of a long theme, big theme with Box is, you know, we're not one of the giant monoliths. We're more a neutral ground, or more of a, you know, pragmatist. And we try to play in the middle where people actually need to get work done. And you know, it's maybe less glamorous in some ways, but we feel very strongly about delivering that kind of value.
From an engineering perspective, is that a case where I mean, I don't want to say like you're working backward, but you're kind of working, like you're working to, like you said, work for a business user, you know, the requirements are a little different, you still have to have a physical presence, right? I mean, is it a case where, I mean, how does it affect, I guess, how you approach product design and building the application?
Yeah, what's interesting, I mean, you talk, obviously you always do when you're building products is you pay a lot of attention to your customers, you talk to your customers a lot. Yeah, it is a little bit of, it feels a little bit like moving backwards. I definitely have that, you know, engineers' reflex to want to go to, you know, the right solution. You know, Google, we had the luxury of doing that because we weren't important to the business. So we had, you know, there was a vision, Eric had a vision, Larry and Sergey had a vision, we were just pursuing it. You know, a lot of folks, that vision works really well in the small business market. But for other folks it doesn't. So what you wind up doing is, in terms of product development, we you know, I've got teams that go across the stack completely, right? So I joke with people that I do everything except like build chips. Like I have like infrastructure engineers, and I have mobile engineers, and I have Windows desktop engineers, and I have JavaScript experts, and like we do the whole thing. We do a very sophisticated web application. We've got a guy named Nicholas Zakis who came out of Yahoo, built this thing called YUI. He's a pretty well-known guy in the JavaScript world. Totally focused on our JavaScript web app infrastructure. It's much more sophisticated than what we did in the Rightly days. And at the same time, I've got a Win8 engineer. I've got an set of Android engineers. I've got, you know, iOS engineers. We've got, you know, desktop engineers doing this stuff. So you get like, you kind of do all of it to make it work well.
So I mean, sophisticated web application. You mentioned mobile. Like now, it's all, you know, it seems like it's becoming more important to have a sophisticated mobile application. Like, what does a sophisticated mobile application look like compared to sophisticated web application?
Well, this is a question that's been on my mind a lot lately. Is what do you want to do with documents and with content and with collaboration on mobile? It's a hard question. You know, you want, on the one hand, you know, mobile is all about being very focused, very sophisticated, very simple. I mean, You want to kind of get one task done, kind of get in and out. So you'd think, just if you took documents as an example, you probably want, very simple documents to sort of be able to just interact with chunks of them. One of the things I've thought about is maybe people ask you questions and you can just answer those questions or comment or just see little pieces of it rather than trying to kind of zoom in on a document. On the one hand. On the other hand, more and more business is happening on mobile devices, tablets and phones. And so you want all of the functionality that you need to get your job done to show up on those devices. And so you can't really just, what we're doing right now is what everybody always does when a new platform emerges, which is imitate the old platform. So we're doing these like full-featured, rich things in the browser, on mobile devices that are just hard to deal with. You get these like
a spreadsheet on your phone.
My phone's starting to feel like a laptop again. It drives me nuts. I just got all this junk, all these pages full of things, and applications are getting really full of controls and really crowded. That can't be the right answer. I can't go back to the crappy days of the desktop. Like the simplicity and focus of these mobile apps makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, you've got to actually figure out how to bring in all this functionality if you're going to really move off of the desktop and into mobile as a mobile worker. So so there's no simple answer to that. We pay a lot of attention to use cases. We've got lots of users for which mobile, in particular tablets, are really, really compelling, that really unlock their business. One of the things we see that's very exciting is that tablets kind of turn people into information workers that didn't used to be information workers. Our great classic example is the construction company that now sends tablets out with the guys that drop off these large yellow machines for rental, and those guys are now information workers that weren't. They were just truck drivers a few years ago. So that's pretty cool.
Do you get a sense of